Thank you so much. Let me just send everybody greetings from Norway. Thank you, Dr. Lukose. That was so powerful, very inspiring. And I also have on board a group of wonderful panelists, power women and men from around the world, diaspora, distributed in different countries. I'm so sorry about my voice. I almost lost it this morning. I don't know why, but I'm thankful that still I can use it. So my panelists are Dr. Lucy Mackenzie, Mr. Ifeanyi Jamie, Miss Joy Sense, and Mr. Kenneth Bandi. And I am happy to welcome them today, this evening, to this wonderful conference. And we will be discussing organizing the diaspora to invest in Africa, because in as much we cannot go into big things if we walk alone. We have to work together. So we have to identify ways of getting other diasporans to join us as we are part of building Africa. We are very privileged now that we really do not always have to relocate to Africa, because we have to be cognizant of the fact that there are some people who are married abroad with children. So, but they want to really, they burn with the desire to be part of building their motherland. And the digital tools that we have, technology has made it possible. We can do knowledge transfer, we can do skills transfer, and many other things. And above all, also remittances. So monetary remittances. So I would like to welcome Dr. Lucy Mackenzie, the chair of Kenya North America Diaspora Circle. Kenya North America Diaspora Circle was the first Kenyan diaspora circle serving women in North America to empower them to save and to invest, to be able to access credible investments. So Dr. Lucy Mackenzie, welcome. It's nice to see you again. And I will let you introduce yourself, and then we are going to go through the questions. Like we said, we are going to have it more of a dialogue. So my fellow panelists, I hope you have your ears open as we welcome her with a virtual thunderous clap. Welcome, Dr. Mackenzie.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rachel. It's also an honor to see you again. I am inspired. All the speakers for today have been amazing. So thank you so much, Anne, for you and your team for putting this together. Like you all heard, my name is Dr. Lucy Mackenzie. I send you greetings from Nairobi, Kenya. It is kind of very cold. I never thought I would say Nairobi is cold, but it is cold. Greetings to you, depending on whatever time frame you're in, whether it's morning or afternoon or evening. I send you warm greetings from here. I am the chair and a co-founder of the Kenya North America Diaspora Circle. It is the first women diaspora circle, as Ms. Rachel has mentioned. And we have been we've been a circle for the last 4 years and 4 months. So we are 54 months old. If we call it in terms of months. We are definitely an organized group of women, and we are looking forward to speaking to you about it and letting you know more about who we are.
Thank you, Dr. Mackenzie. I will go to introduce Mr. Ifeanyi Jamie of Africa Chamber of Digital Commerce. Are you there? Okay, while he tries to log on, I will just call Ms. Joy Sense of Africa Women in Europe and our Diaspora Circle. If you're there, please unmute, put your camera on. We'd like to see you. It's nice to see you here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, as you said, yes, my name is Joy Tent, the founder of African Women in Europe, and actually the current chair lady of our Diaspora Circle, which stands for African Women in Europe. I'm based here in Germany, and we have a network of women as well as men all over Europe. And yes, as our aim is to empower, inform, share information. And the last one was the recent one was to invest in Africa. And that's how the Awe Diaspora comes in as an organization. Apart from that, we also have African Women in Trade, where we support in entrepreneurs in Kenya to trade among each other and as well as here in Europe. So yes, I'm happy to be here. It was a very good day today. I've learned a lot from so many people, new ideas of investment. I'm always eager so that I can bring this information to my women in terms of investment opportunities out there. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. And Mr. Kenneth Gbandi of Africa German Information Center, if you're there, I would be happy that you unmute yourself, put your camera on, and let's hear your introduction.
Thank you, Rachel. It's great to see you again. It's great to see Joy again, and my fellow diaspora in Germany. Yeah, Kenneth Gbandi is my name, like you said. I was the two-time diaspora chair of Nigerians in Diaspora Organization Europe, which is one of the largest diaspora organizations in the whole of the world. Two times the chair of Diaspora Germany, and currently the chairperson of African German Information Center, who specializes in youth empowerment, youth capacity building, as well as also political enlightenment. I'm currently also the deputy national chairman of the third biggest political party in Nigeria, African Democratic Congress. It's good to be here with you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gbandi. I'm happy to see you after many years. It's only mountains which don't meet, so it's good to have you here. Mr. Ifeanyi Jemi, did you manage to log on? I guess he's having some technical difficulties, but he will join us. So I will go back to Dr. Lucy Mackenzie. Let us start from there. Can you share what your journey has been? Can you share what has been your journey leading the team that organized African women in the diaspora to be able to create wealth and to invest back home? And how did you transition from a SACCO to an investment firm? Also, what do you see are the credible investment options in the marketplace that your members are taking up? It would be interesting to know, because I think sometimes people miss out to hear direct from the remitters what they want to invest in. People are kind of always saying they need to do this, but now you have yours, you can tell us what they're interested in. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rachel. And yes, the diaspora story becomes incredible every year. And even during the time of COVID, we've been able to remit over 300 billion shillings into Kenya. And so when they talk about the diaspora and how much they remit to Kenya, they are unable to quantify what that money looks like and what it does. But having SACCOs in the diaspora gives them a leverage to understand where this money comes from and what people actually do with it. And so we started, our journey was founded on a Facebook page post. And so the leveraging of technology and being able to connect with people in different areas has been our biggest, I can say one of our biggest marketer. Because we did use technology a lot in terms of even the reach out. So we were founded on Facebook, where there was a random post of what if women could get together and each contribute $100 a month, how would that go? So 8 of us got together and drove with this idea of having a diaspora women's circle. And by November, this was in July of 2016, and by November of 2016, we had already become certified. The reason why I say that we are 4 years and 4 months old is because we actually opened to new members joining the circle on March 7th of 2017. And so we've seen tremendous growth, and the time was right. If you become an organization and you are organized in terms of being able to be transparent and you're able to be accountable to your members, because of the trust issues that diasporans have had there, they've been wounded many times, where their finances have been captured by people who come and sell scrupulous things and ideas to diasporans. And we send in our money to these projects which never materialize. Yet nothing happens to these people. So the diaspora needed to have an avenue where they can be able to invest in products back home that have been well vetted, where you have spent time to know this person who is the vendor that is coming to sell to your members. Have they paid their taxes? Have they cheated people in the past? Have they done all the right things? Are they a fly-by-night company, or do they have roots and are well-grounded in Kenya? And so for us, the idea of the circle became even more profound, understanding how many women had lost money doing this kind of investments of things that did not materialize. And so for us, it is important that women are able to create wealth. It is one of the United Nations Sustainable Developmental Goals of equality. As you all know, that women do most of the work in terms of farming, yet they own the least amount of land. And so now we are changing that narrative, where you will see that the woman investor is very savvy, is educated, and is going out there and finding new ways of investing their money. And so for Canaan, what we have seen is that because the companies that are like mutual, the ones that offer us the CMA, being able to invest in the stock market, because they've been very silent, and the people who sell land and who sell buildings, apartments, are very loud in the diaspora. They come out and they tell us what they are selling and what is available. And so for diasporans, you find that many of us are buying land. Sometimes we don't even know where this land is. So this becomes, yes, we have assets, which are dead assets that are not necessarily generating us any income, but yet we could be investing probably in stock, in the stock market, or in money market funds, or instead of taking the big risk of being the realtor, you invest in real estate, where you can diversify your portfolio. So those are some of the other new things that we are finding as diasporans. Those markets have not been exposed to us, but we are going after them seriously. And so we want our members and the diaspora, because we do have a lot of money. They talk about it all the time. They say we are bringing 300 billion, but we can't go to Nairobi City or even many of these big cities and point, this 300 billion that was sent last year, this is what it did. We find that our government continues to take loans from outside sources. Why would they not take those loans from us diasporans who are already generating a lot of revenue back to the country, and they can pay us the interest? We are not going to be greedy. We will give them a reasonable rate, and they will be paying it back to us who are Africans and Kenyans, to speak about Kenya. So that is what I can say, that there's lots of areas where we need to come back and invest. Agribusiness is a great area where we can invest, but we don't want to go and become cultivators and just sell the fruit. No, we need to add value to that product, so that when we sell it to the outside market, we get better returns even for the farmers. Right? Being able to also invest in the stock market, be trained, bring these people who are educating, the people from the CMA, the people from the Nairobi Stock Exchange, bring them to the diaspora to explain and teach us diasporans other ways that we can invest and be able to generate money while we are sleeping. Because in order for us to make wealth, our money has to be our employees to go out there and make money for us. And it cannot make money for us sitting in the bank getting 2% interest, whereas the inflation rate is already at 6%. That money is not going to do us anything. So we need to be creative and find innovative ways, and even collaborate with other circles and other organized institutions to do big things and take on big projects. So that's what I would say for right now. Thank you so much, Ms. Rachel.
Amazing, amazing. It's so good always to listen to you. And you have heard now, talking about Kenya alone, 300 billion shillings is it's a huge amount. It's not a joke. And also you have touched on the issue of loans in Kenya, and if diaspora could lend. We need to, what do you think about this? That you see this money, Dr. Mackenzie, we have not sat together and said, we Kenyans this year, we are remitting $300 billion. It's the money which maybe some people have invested, Some are remitting to their parents for their upkeep. Really, it's really small amounts. It's 50 euro, 100 euro, but because we are estimated to be about 3 million Kenyan diaspora, so that sums up to a very big amount. Yes. So you have lived in the diaspora many years, like many of us here. You know, the struggle is real, and we know that it's not the big players, the people with a lot of money who are investing back in Africa, because normally, even in the diaspora, when you have huge money, you want to invest in the host country where you can trust the systems. So the remittances which are sent back to Africa collectively are many. How do we help the people, knowing that they are struggling sometimes in the diaspora to get this money? How do they divide it between putting that 100 euro in a circle and still supporting their family? Because I think those are some of the things that diaspora are looking for. Yeah, because the money will generate. Like if I put my money in a new circle, I will wait for a while before it starts coming. And in retrospect, it will support my family. That passive income is the one I can maybe convert it to be their remittance. So what do you say about that from your members? How are they going about this?
Okay, so what we have found, now I'll talk about women. Women, we have this place that we put money that nobody knows about. So when something good comes to being, they are willing to take that money out of that pot and put it into a good investment. And so some of the things that we are seeing our members is that they are moving also to invest on their own behalf, other than just putting the money in the circle. They're investing even as individuals in terms of the infrastructure bond, the treasury bonds, because those interest rates that come with those treasury bonds and or infrastructure bonds are close to 12% or just a little over 12%. If you put that money in your bank account, you're not going to make that kind of money. Okay, so you will find, and the fact that it is giving them interest twice a year, that is very encouraging. So if you put in you tighten your belt and you say, I'll put in this $500 towards an infrastructure bond, but every 6 months you're going to be getting a return on that money. So that is another avenue that we have seen, other than them just investing in land and apartments. And I do remember you asked me a question of how did we transition from the SACCO to an investment arm. We actually did not transition. SACCOs are primarily for savings and credit. And our members who are in the diaspora are not really into borrowing small monies. But they also want to invest in big things. So the investment arm of Canard's SACCO is Canard's PLC, which vets people who are vendors who are wanting to come and sell to our members. And it also gives the SACCO, the members who are members of the Canard's PLC, an ability to invest in things other than just apartments. They can now go into if they want to get into manufacturing, they can collectively be together and raise the money and be able to do that. Whereas the SACCO is primarily just for savings and credit. And so the credit is giving them loans at a low interest rate of 1% per month on reducing balance. And so we have seen that our members have done an uptick in how they take their loans to not only improve maybe their parents' home or their own personal homes, but also put up apartment buildings where they can be able to rent out to the community. So they are creating jobs. So there is an after effect from their borrowing.
Yes. Wow, thank you. I think Mr. Kenneth Gbandi and Joy Sense, do you have something to put in there? Would you like to join the conversation there so that we can have this discussion?
I'll just go ahead and let Kenneth join after. Yes, as I'm so happy to have Lucy here in Foro because she's one of our biggest mentors. And actually, if she didn't tell us SACCOs will work for African women in Europe, we would not have gone for that option. And following the trend that we have seen in the past area, people are now moving beyond just wanting to just invest and save money, to buy lands, and moving in a different direction of investment. As you know, we are not at home, back at home. Some of these lands, we hardly even see them. We buy them from here, and some of them are underwater. I don't know. I've had so many stories. Families have been spoiled because houses were built but never came out. And joining something like a SACCO, it helps them a little bit to invest together. You know, women, we work in packs, because having worked with African women in Europe for long, we work in packs. We only go where our friends tell us they did something good. Even if a customer or from whatever country comes from Africa and talks to us, they will not go directly until another woman tells them, oh, I did this and this is what I did. And as I said, that's what also Dr. Lucas Makeda came to me. SACCO is working, and said, okay, it's working for you, it will work for us. And also mentorship. So there's a lot of lack of information as well, which has been aired. There's so many things that people don't know how to invest. So money market fund is an area I also enjoy a lot. Myself, I've also invested in that, again, from learning from another woman. Thank you, Dr. Lucy. It's all about learning from other women. So looking at it also back to African women in Europe as an organization before we came to a SACCO.
We'll come to that. We'll come to that.
Yes, I just wanted to point something to direct that, towards that. It's
explain the acronym SACCO, because we have Kenneth Bandi here and other people who may be not from Kenya, they would not know what a SACCO is. So if you can just explain the acronym first, and then we can go on.
Okay, definitely. SACCO is a savings and credit cooperative society. So if from Nigeria and other countries you have cooperatives, you can relate that it's similar, but it came out from small, like merry-go-rounds, you call them susu from in Nigeria, or other countries you have different names, but they were taken up by the government because of the security and the regulation and upgraded to SACCO. And the SACCO is a savings and credit where people save the money. The idea is to save the money and you borrow credit, and from that's the way the business aspect behind it is about. It's just like the way banks gives out loans and savings is the same thing with the women, but only the members of these SACCOs are able to borrow to save, and they borrow the credit. It's not open for the public. So it's very regulated, and most of the SACCOs are actually are tailored with something. They have a goal, all of them. So African women, our diaspora SACCO is basically, our aim is to support entrepreneurs in Africa, at the same time create generation wealth for our members. So what we do, our members are Kenyans in the diaspora, and in Europe specifically, not just anywhere, it's very region oriented, where you have the SACCOs, especially the diaspora ones, but there are already the SACCOs in the country in Kenya where they operate, and we were privileged by the government, and thank you to bigger SACCOs that are there that was advanced to diasporans, so that we can be able to enjoy the same advantages as on the ground as diasporans. So all SACCOs are oriented and the way they are run, they are regulated and governed in Kenya. So that's very important. Everything is done in Kenya, the regulations. That means we're talking about Kenya shillings. Some you can also use US dollars, but Kenya shillings is the one that we talk. And we have a very strict regulator that just came in act that makes sure that things are running properly. And so it's a very successful, actually, SACCOs have been known. I haven't got the figure, but I think to the biggest vehicle that is there for investments that is working very well in Africa, and Kenya is one of them. And we are also encouraging other countries to copy the good practice of Kenya to move it to the next level. Yeah, I can talk a lot, but I'm talking like this because we are trained as directors, as chair ladies, so we are not bringing a product that we don't know, and it is very important for all SACCOs to be trained because we are not on the ground. We don't know how the regulations are. The language they speak is different. I tell you, it's a lot. And most of the circles you see, like directors, we are doing this out of our own time. There is no payment. So you're doing this out of your extra time, and there is no salary, and it's a lot of commitments, time commitments, and following up. But you can also have employees to run the circles as well. So I hope that was a little bit more clear. I hope I explained it well. Maybe my mentor will also confirm if I have already have mentioned that correctly.
Thank you. I will just go back a little bit behind and see if Mr. Efeanyi Jemmy has joined us. Are you there? Would you like to, my fourth panelist, I was missing him. So if you will switch on your audio and video.
Hello, yes, I am here.
Okay, welcome. If you could just introduce yourself, because we've already started a bit. I hope you were listening in the background, but I would just like you to introduce yourself, who you are. I know you're from the Africa Chamber of Digital Commerce, and then we'll come back to the questions afterwards so that we keep the momentum. Yes.
Absolutely. Hi, great to meet everybody. My name is Efeanyi Jemye. I'm the fund director of the Africa Chamber of Digital Commerce. We're based here in the U.S., Minnesota, and also on the continent of Africa. I'm based in California, and my background has been in a decade of financial services, first on Wall Street, then came to the West Coast in California, worked in private banking as well as Silicon Valley, and now launching a community development institution for the U.S., meanwhile helping ACFDC, as we call it, the Africa Chamber of Digital Commerce, to pursue our initiatives on the continent as far as economic development through technology incubation, as well as through diaspora investment. So excited to touch on some of that today.
Wow, fantastic. We can't wait to hear from you. You've mentioned something that touches me a lot when people mention community development, and what I'm happy my heart beats, because I'm more of a social entrepreneur who's really tending towards, I tend to navigate towards especially rural communities in development. But thank you. It's nice to have you here. So I will now jump on, first of all, to Mr. Kenneth Bundy. I think he's been silent too long, so we can have something in between, all the way from Nigeria and Germany. Mr. Bundy, you're welcome. I'm happy to have you here today, and you will tell us from which I know you're multifaceted and you have quite a lot running. I left you with even a magazine that used to report really nice things about the African diaspora. And we are happy to have you here today. And I hope you recognized me. I know you nicknamed me the landlord of Cologne. I don't know if I'll become a landlord here in Norway, but welcome, Mr. Bundy. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Rachel. Yes. As a matter of fact, when I saw, it's been very funny that we've been communicating, but it's like when you appeared on the screen, I said, that's Rachel. Cologne, I know Rachel of Cologne. What's she doing in Switzerland now or in Norway? Anyway, thanks to have me. It's been a great pleasure listening to all the great diaspora experts. Like the first speaker and actually the second speaker, Dr. Lucy also mentioned, it's always good to network in the diaspora continent, the African continent, especially in the diaspora. I was privileged to be in Paris. That was in 1999, if I'm not mistaken, when the African Union African Diaspora was launched in Paris. I was one of the keynote speakers on media. And the essence was actually to organize the diaspora, to play a very important role in the African continent, having recognized the diaspora as the sixth continent of the region under the African Union. So I think everybody recognized that the best resources of any nation are the human resources. The diaspora are the epitome of every nation's human resources, both human and social capital, with international best practice and network. I think Rachel and Joy has demonstrated that over the years, also in the diaspora. So the diaspora play important role of any nation. Israel, India, and Rwanda are very, very good example. And I'm very, very excited at what I'm hearing from Kenya about this circle. Nigeria, being one of the biggest diaspora network, has not been able to manage such a very impressive investment organization like SACCO. Of course, we had in the past been able to raise diaspora bond into billions, but that was done under the government directive, but not the diaspora themselves. And like Dr. Lucy also mentioned, yes, we remit a lot of money back to the African continent. But the question is, when you point out what have these big remittances been able to do for us, one cannot point out anything. So the idea has been, how can we organize ourselves in a way that we can still help our parents or our families back home and still, go into an investment project or capital project. And I think SACCO is doing a very wonderful job on that. We have to reach out to them to see how they're able to do that. And they probably will have to introduce that on the Nigerian platform. But most diaspora I know in Nigeria, we have about, say, 22 million Nigerians in diaspora. Over the years that I have the contact with some of them, especially the leading ones, the first thing in their mind, I think that also started with the keynote speaker today, is that irrespective of how bad our country is or are in Africa, everybody is thinking about Africa. Everybody is thinking back home. What can we do back home? How can we help people back home? How can we, both politically and investment-wise? So it's always in the mind of everybody, how can we contribute to the development of our continent? And I think they've mentioned a couple of investment opportunities. Again, top on investment that I've experienced with Nigerian diaspora are actually in the real estate business, housing. I think it's there for obvious reason. There's a sentimental attachment to have a roof over your head. When you're thinking about settling back in Africa, the first thing that comes to your mind when you get back to Africa, you don't want to stay with your parents or your father. You want to have your own roof over your head. So that means it strikes first in your mind that you want to have a roof over your head. That's why housing, it becomes a very, very important line of investment. So when I was the chairman of Nigerian Diaspora Organization Europe, we took it as our first prerogative to invest in the house now diaspora, what we call diaspora housing project. Well, we were able to secure with our technology partner 2.36 billion US dollar on humanitarian housing fund, which used to be invested in Africa. The fund is supposed to, for the proposed housing project in Nigeria, which is in to deliver a minimum of 350,000 affordable housing in 10 years. Apart from that, it's going to also create about 300,000 additional job every year in Nigeria throughout the duration of that project. In addition to that, it's going to stimulate a small-scale businesses like those people engage in plumbing, in electrical works. Apart from that, also, we intend to use that opportunity to train most of those artisans, most of these medium scale, which I think either you or you mentioned that is is one of the things in your mind, to see these small scale businesses. How can we bring them together, train them, empower them to involve in these massive housing projects, so that they will be able to also to stand on their own, bringing in this small development across the cities. Well, I will tell you, unfortunately, which is also one of the things that every diaspora will know. Unfortunately, as laudable as this project is or was, we are supposed to partner with the government. It did not happen. Why? Political consideration, and that's why most people actually said, and I'm happy to know how the Kenyan has been able to manage that. Because one of the biggest problem of diaspora investment, at least in Nigeria, it's not even market entry, which most people have thought would have been the biggest problem of finance. No, the biggest problem of diaspora investment in Nigeria is the government bureaucracies, corruption, having political consideration. And so that is actually what killed that 2.36 billion housing project. But we did not let that stop us. So what happened is that we moved beyond depending on the government, so to say, to bring in the diaspora, few diaspora who are interested in this diaspora project, to say, hey, we can get a piece of land in Nigeria, and get ourselves together and put up something at our own financial capability. And that is how the diaspora village in Delta State was born. And so we bought about 40, 50 acres of land that will accommodate about 280 housing units. We have a overall plan for the estate. But we allow individual to go there, buy a piece of land, and develop it within their own ability and capability. What we are trying to do in addition to that is to reach out to financial institutions and mortgage institutions to see how can they help the diaspora. I think Joy mentioned that we are struggling, $50, $100. It's not probably capable of building a house, a dream house of our own. So we'll be looking out to see if we can reach out to organizations like SACCO to say, listen, we have this is a massive project in Nigeria. We don't have, the individual in diaspora don't have the ability, to have this massive, huge investment. How can we, collaborate that you finance those houses, they pay mortgage or they pay, interest on that loan as we go on, so that they can be able to invest that individually. By so doing, we end up, creating housing for the diaspora who want to return home. We help to empower the youth who are going to engage in that massive construction, from plumbing to electricity to carpentry and the rest of them, and at the same time transfer wealth from the diaspora back to the mother continent, which is actually the essence of this program, or the whole of the diaspora dream, to bring investment back to Africa and help create generational wealth. I think that's what we are trying to do in Nigeria, and so far it has been very successful. So I'm looking forward at the end of this program to see how I can reach out to Joy or organize this Kenyan circle, and how can we also collaborate with such a housing project that will be able to, to key into the financial resources.
Amazing. That's really nice, Mr. Bandi. Now I'm calling you doctor, but it's okay.
Maybe you're trying to give me a doctor. It will come. It will come soon.
Yes, let me give you a honorary one right here, right today, because what you're doing is amazing, and what you've been doing is really amazing. So in a nutshell, because you mentioned the challenges which frustrated your ambitious project of almost, you say 350 affordable houses in 10 years, 350,000.
650,000.
650,000. Oh my, oh my. And that is something really huge. But another thing which you're doing very well is to realize that we need to transfer skills, like what you mentioned, plumbing. I don't know if it's in Nigeria, it's also a challenge of getting a good plumber, of getting this, skilled labor in these areas, in as much as a lot of people have invested in housing. Since time immemorial, diaspora like to put money for building a house for their own or for their parents, but it's still very astonishing that you hardly get good plumbers or something. They are there, but very few, not tallying with the market that is there. But I would like you to tell us in a nutshell, so that we can be in good time, that I can go on to the rest. What are the good best practices fellow Africans and friends of Africa can adopt to facilitate a structured way in how we approach development in the African continent, especially being cognizant of issues like corruption and frustration, diaspora really answering the call that come back and build Africa. And then you raise the money, because Dr. Lucy Mackenzie said rightfully, diaspora has the money and they're willing to come together. But what is really stopping this? Is there a rift? How can that be breached between diaspora and the governments? Can you tell us?
Yes, like I just mentioned, the challenge, which is very obvious. But I think the best practice, I can reach out again to SACCO. I'm just marveled how they managed to put that up. If you get 7 Nigerians together to talk about investment, you get 7 lawyers and seven different opinions. And so at the end of the day, you end up not getting a consensus on that. So one of the things I thought we could do, and probably Ifeanyi actually he has not said anything, but immediately he mentioned digital commerce. My mind swapped. I said, wow, I'm looking forward to hear what he has to say. I think it is time diaspora also float an investment banking. I don't see a reason why we cannot do that. If we can float an investment banking in the diaspora, that is going to be make a lot of sense in terms of how we have a structured investment back in Africa. But in addition to that, just take example, the Western Union and all the money transfer organization who are making billions of US dollars going back to Africa. If we can have an organized African money transfer outfit, where we say for every transfer that 1% is set aside for capital development in that country, whether it be it in Nigeria or be it in Kenya. And you can take for instance that we remitted 300 billion Kenyan shillings in last year, take 5% of that amount into a fixed capital project. You can imagine what is going to do for the African continent. So I think the best practice is for Africans to begin to, one, take it individually, like what SACCO is doing, or like what we're trying to do. Locate a business venture in Africa, which you trust those people who are running that, and you can be able to buy into that investment. Agriculture or the housing seems to be going on in Nigeria. Get involved in diaspora remittances, but also the money in the bank is a wasted money. And so we should begin to look at the investment projects in Africa and see exactly how we can go into that. But most importantly, diaspora must come together, not relying on their government, to be able to drive investment. But people like probably the digital commerce that Ifeanyi is going to talk about, and how they can help us to organize a kind of a SACCO version in Nigeria will be what I will advise every diaspora to look out for.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. You have mentioned some key things which we won't go back to now, but at the end, I will come back with them. You have one important one that you have suggested. If this remittance, if Africans can have a remittance front where a dollar can be put aside for development, but what is hindering from approaching the existing ones and just asking them?
Well, it's money politics. They will never allow that in the first place.
So then if they don't allow, then it's when we open ours, and then we all migrate there, and we hit two birds with one stone. But important, make sure that the charges are really low. Anyway.
Absolutely. But the government, while the monetary organization will probably not allow that, but the most important is because some of our people in government are benefiting more from that, and that's why they are not in collaboration with them there. But like you said, if we are given the license to do that, which of course we have the opportunity to do that, I think we can address those issues.
All these ones just started, we just need to get one which is backing that, and then we do it. Yeah. Just begin. I'm already inside there. Thank you. I would like to ask Mr. Ifeanyi Jemmy. You are part of the Africa Chamber of Digital Commerce, which is focused on using technology to ensure development in our continent. And it is championed by the African diaspora. What is your take on how we can work together collectively to find and take up investment opportunities? What are some of the success stories you can share that you see happening at the chamber? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for organizing this excellent conference. So, I really like the comments that Mr. Kenneth and everyone has said here today. We really are focusing on this angle of remittance channeling. We really do two main things, which is on one side, the development of the entrepreneurs and the startup ecosystem, particularly as well with rural. How we can affect the rural, because there are many who are working on smart cities like ACONs of the world, but the difference between, the African cities and, like, let's say like Dubai is there's a much larger rural population to take care of. So we focus a lot on also how can we make sure that the rural is going to be able to keep up with the pace of technological adoption or to be able to benefit from that increasing pace. And so there's that side. And then there's the other side, which is the organizing of investment. And we do this through a number of ways. We do this first through business matchmaking, but the second way that we're working on now is, like Mr. Kenneth has suggested, a licensed path. And for us, what we believe is the best way to do this is a licensed entity that is able to, like you said, create structured investment product where the diaspora can easily channel some of their remittance funds into these investment products. Okay, and we have some members of the chamber who are already actively doing this. And so part of the chamber's job is to showcase these businesses as well as to organize some of these business leaders around strategic joint ventures. So that's something we work very much on. Some of our members are involved with the AU, the African Diaspora Investment Fund, which is currently using this approach. They have, for example, they use an organization called Remit Fund. The Remit Fund essentially works with banks to channel a certain portion of remittances based on donation into their fund. And the African Diaspora Investment Fund then brings on diasporans, and then seeks projects to invest in. So currently right now at the ACFDC, we have members involved with that. We're also doing a project-based approach right now through the fund, which is helping specific projects get launched in, as far as community development. But the reason why we really like the remittance project that we are developing is because when we work with, when we work with licensed partners to start, as well as government, we can create private-public partnerships in this way through the banking associations, the microfinance bankings, and the traditional banking associations and agencies, in order to work with them to plan and develop the technological structure that will enable the banking institutions, particularly those that are located in and working with the rural communities. So we call these the microfinance institutions, to better be able to serve their mandate through having a shared standardized systems, which will enable them digitally so that people can begin to send their money rather than to the big city banks over to these microfinance institutions where are nearer to their families, so that the family members who are in these rural areas can have access to cash without having to go to black market necessarily, can go to their bank and have a record of cash inflow from their family members, as well as cash outflow for their expenditures, which will enable them to build up a credit history. So from there, when we have all of the community banks and microfinance banks as well connected, now we can create our own credit algorithms, credit scoring, and we can create that infrastructure in countries where it lacks that. And we can work with government to create policy around that. So part of what the ACFDC does also is policy re-engineering and policy advocacy. You know, we're talking to central bankers and other groups and agencies every week, and very active on that front, because we realize that this has to happen as well from a policy perspective for these things to be able to remain in place. Also to be able to compete with the large players who are already doing remittances, such as Western Union in the space, right? So we have to provide the banks, the small banks, an opportunity to be better capitalized. So when you have the digital platform, you have remittances coming in, they now increase their deposits. From that increased deposits, they can lend more. From that data, they can lend more. They can decrease their cost of capital, meaning the interest rate that they charge, so that they can effectively meet their actual financial mandates, which are to improve financial inclusivity in our communities. So this is a long process. It's going to require a lot of effort and a lot of coordination. In the US, you see that the community development banks, they have a lot of coordination because they realize that to fund projects that require impact, you require patient capital, you require reinvestment of capital, and you require, training from the ground up. And so that's another thing we engage in, is to work with those who are on the ground level for aggregation of resources for training of personnel. We're launching a training program right now with a no-code. Yes.
Sorry to cut you. You have half a minute remaining, because I'm being told the other session will begin. So you have half a minute so that we can start winding up.
Okay. Yes. And so that's really that, we're launching a training program for no-code tech development, which we believe is going to be the future no-code app development, and working with the partners in this space as well, so that you can have, an ecosystem where people in these communities are also being trained up to continue to run these digital ecosystems.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. And I think we have seen that there is a good partnership, Mr. Bandi. You see now the person who you can get hold of for that idea you have floated. And as we wind up, can you give your last remarks? Joy, however, I would like to ask you to, in a nutshell, what is your take on how the diaspora should collectively work together to ensure we create wealth for ourselves and our families in the diaspora and on the continent?
Okay, thank you so much for that. As everyone has said there, we need to come together. We need to build networking platform. We need to start trusting each other, because you cannot do business with people you don't trust. So that's the first place to start with. Build a networking platforms that work. And it takes time to do this, but some of them are lucky ones, like you had Lucy. They started on Facebook and they were already ready to go, but building trust. And then you need to do your homework. You need to look out there, what are the opportunities out there for you to invest as a group. It's much better when you invest as a group. You are much safer. And if you build a case, if something happens wrong, if you're investing back at home, and I've seen this with so many small chamas, they're called, or susu, they put money together and they are able to invest together. But if you do in a more organized, regulated bodies like SACCOs or other organizations, that your money is protected, because we are losing a lot of money as diaspora. We are sending money home. I know they're saying we're sending a lot of remittance money back home, but this money is already allocated, as you all know, for our families, for our children. But we are asking them to save the little money as extra. So when you're looking at diaspora money, you also have to think about, if you do it collectively, it makes much more impact, especially if you're going to the government bonds. You get better interest rates and things like that. So those are the two ones.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And Dr. Mackenzie, your remark?
I think my final remark will be that we have reached that phase as diasporans where we cannot go with selfish ambitions. We need to collaborate more than compete, and our effects in our respective countries will be more profound and have a greater impact. So I would say that with all our panelists, let's see how we can collaborate to have a bigger impact on the continent.
Fantastic. So your final thought, okay, Mr. Bandi?
I can only, concur with Joy and Dr. Lucy. I think it's time for the continent to wake up. I think the keynote speaker said it all. It is the year of the African return, and we need to key into that. Absolutely. We have demonstrated the capacity that we are capable of, thinking out for ourselves in Africa. What we will beg, and like every speaker have said, it is time we network together. What works for Kenya can work for Nigeria. There is a lot of space for us to coexist together. And I think it's time we have a increased collaboration within the diaspora.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that, Mr. Ifeanyi. Your final thought?
Yes, I think collaboration is key. I think organizations knowing about one another, coming together in groups like the Chamber and the groups that we have for networking. And, I think licensed entities really having discussion that go beyond their own individual motive and how they can collaborate. And so getting in on those discussions for the diaspora will be key. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much, all of you. It was such a great discussion. I wish we had more time to continue because there is so much. But the key thing that I've come out with or kept ringing in my mind as we discussed is the networking part. Because all of us are doing in different ways. We have put together some people who can be we can create a bigger impact if we are not in silos, if it is not in this circle, if it's not in this, but there are other also big options. There are ambitious projects ongoing. I had wanted to give an example of the Diaspora University Town by Kenyans. When Mr. Bandi mentioned his housing, I just thought about it because it is in the community, it is in the rural, it is going to create jobs, and it is a place where diaspora are finding, if it is a home they want to buy, if they want to support education, it's all encompassed in one. But we won't talk about that and many others also out there. So I want to thank you for joining us today. It has been such a pleasure having all of you, listening to you. And we will ask that next year we have a longer time because this is a discussion that we have to continue. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, all of you.